Hello friends, welcome to SQL Server tutorial. In this video, we will see how to create multi-line table valued function. So that means here we will declare a table and we will fill that table, then we will return that table. So since it requires a lot of statement and we can't do that with a single line, we call it as a multi-line table valued function. So here you will learn how to declare a table, then how to declare a cursor and iterate the records and fill the table. Multi-line table valued function run in multiple statements. Like we did in the previous video, we wrote inline table valued function. There we kept only one statement, a return statement, and we queried a table. Right here, our multi-line table valued function will run in multiple line to achieve the required result. So we cannot make it inline because it requires some business logic, so that we will go with multiple lines to achieve the required result. It may bring data from different tables or even from different database to form the return or resulting table. So there may be multiple table at runtime. If you see, this is the table we want to return with multiple rows and columns. It may query different table from the database. If you see, here it is fetching data from different table. Fetch 1, fetch 2, fetch 3, and it fills the columns. Finally, it returns. So it may bring data from different tables or even from different databases to form the resulting table and returns that. For the same reason, this function will not participate in the update statement like scalar valued function. When we talked about scalar valued function, we told that it can participate in update statement. But the multi-line table valued function cannot participate in update statement. But you can still place this in from class as well as in the table joins. In this video, we will get order number and form a meaningful table and return that table to the caller. Right? So the input here for the function is the order number. Say if order number is 1001, from this 1001 we will walk through a different table to form the column C1, C2, C3, C4. This is a table, right? And we will return that table. The caller can readily use the data and avoid joins to some extent, because function will take care of those. Here you will also learn how to use cursors. So we haven't created any separate subseries for cursors, but here in this video, since we are going to use a multi-line table valued function to achieve the required result, we will be using the cursors here. So here our function name is getOrderInfo. That's the function name, and if you see, it takes a parameter order number. So that's the only one param we are having here. returns, previously when we created the scalar valued function, we saw return int, right? That's how we specified. But here it returns order info table. So the key here is it returns a table that we specified, and the name here is order info. And in this specific sequence, if you see, we are defining the table on the fly. The table name is order info. The table name is order info, and it contains 4 columns. This is column 1, column 2, 3, and 4. Column name is store name. Data type is varchar. Title varchar. Quantity small integer. Total sold integer. There are 4 columns, and we are defining the table on the fly inside the, for this table valued function, multi-line table valued function. So we haven't yet defined the body. So at present we specified what is the param, and we defined the return table and its columns along with the data types. Now we are beginning the body. Here, if you see, for data retrieval, we declared 2 variables. One is store ID and another one is title ID. To form this table, this is the table we are going to return, right? For this, we declared 2 variables. One is store ID and another one is title ID. The incoming one is the order number. And to collect the data for return table, we declared 4 more local variable. If you see, st name varchar 20, that is matching with this column. This is first column, right? To map this first column, we declare 1L. So to match all these columns, we have a local variables. So in this local variable, we will collect the data and we will insert the content of this table on the body. So here we are declaring the cursor. So declare sales cursor. This is the cursor name, and this one is the keyword. For declare sales cursor. This is our cursor name, and we use the keyword cursor for select store ID, title ID, quantity. That's the 3 column from sales table, right? Where order number equal to the passed in order number. This is param 1, right? Param 1 is, we are using that here, right? So we declare a cursor. This is simply a select statement only, right? The keyword here is declare sales cursor. Just like other variable, here we are using the keyword declare cursor name, cursor. For we are forming the select statement. While we are forming the select statement, we are making use of the incoming parameter. So if you execute this line, we know that this will return a table, right, with the 3 columns. So let's state that the param 1 here is order number is 1001, right? So for a given order ID, that's what we are filtering here, where order number equal to 1001, right? And we pick the records, and let's state that there are 3 records that qualifies the given condition or given order number. So under 1001, let's state that there are 3 titles ordered. Here you can see there are 3 titles. and we have the quantity ordered for this. Let's state that this is book 1, book 2, book 3, right? And there are some quantities. Let's state that 10, 20 and 30. And there is a store ID also. The store ID can be same or it can be different as well, right? So the order is placed here, or we retrieved the titles ordered under the order number 1001. So the sales cursor is declared to retrieve the data. Here we just took an example of 1001. Now here, if you see, this is declared, right? Here we are opening the sales cursor. When you open the sales cursor, it will query the select statement as part of the cursor and places a in-memory table for iteration. And the table contains 3 columns. Here if you see store ID, title ID, quantity, there are 3 columns. Number of rows is decided by this where condition. So now here we are using the fetch next from sales cursor. This is our cursor, right? Sales cursor. Fetch next from sales cursor. Fetch next from sales cursor into the variable names. So what happens, let's state that we have 3 columns, right? The cursor pointer will be pointing at very first record, right? Very first record. Fetch next from sales cursor means here open statement will bring the table into memory. Fetch next from sales cursor, this is the sales cursor, and we are naming this as a sales cursor. Fetch next from sales cursor means from current record pointer fetch the data. So there are 3 columns, and when we fetch, these variables will get filled: store ID, title ID, quantity. And if you see, we already declared those. Store ID, store ID is here, that will get filled. Title ID is here, that will also get filled. Quantity is part of the here we declared the quantity, and we are filling all these variables. Right? Store ID V1, we are filling that. Title ID, we are filling that, V2. Then the order table itself, I mean the sales table itself contains quantity, so we are filling that also. So for the output table, so these are all the variable we declared for output, right? For this output table. In the output table stuff, now we have data for quantity here itself. All right. Now, so fetch next from sales cursor, sales car, next from means from this in-memory table into the local variable which is part of this function body. So we filled this variable. Next we are using the while here, while fetch status equal to 0 at the rate. So this is a special variable to check the status of the last fetch. So since current record pointer is at valid record, it will return fetch status as 0. That means fetch status is success. So we are entering inside the begin. So this is the test. Right, we are testing the fetch status, and if it is success, we are coming inside. So select st name. St name is here 1L. We already have 3L, and here we are getting the 1L. And if you see select s name, and you have to read it like this: select store name from stores. This is a simple select query, right? Select store name, STOR name from stores. This is the table where store ID equal to store ID. Store ID we already retrieved here, right? V1. So the retrieved value we are supplying here to form the where condition, and this will return a single data. Store name it will return, and that store name we are storing it under the local variable. So now 1L also ready. 1L is ready and 3L is ready. In the next statement, if you see select title from titles, and if you see here we are using the table stores, and in the next statement we are using the table title. Select title, that's the column name from titles, where title ID equal to title ID which we fetched from here. So that one we are supplying. Right here in the cursor fetch itself, we are taking this data, filling it in the local variable, and we are using it to retrieve further data. Now we got @title got filled. So @title is here. That means we filled our local variable 2L as well. And finally here we are using the aggregate. Select total sold. Total sold is here our 4L, right? Select sum of quantity from sales, where title ID equal to given title ID. This is store ID, title ID. We are once again using the title ID here. In the previous statement also we used title ID, right? V2. So now we have store name, title, and total sold in hand. If you see 3L is ready. This one is 4L, 4L also ready. Now the data to insert the in-memory table is ready. And remember, with this fetch next, we fetched the first record, right, for first iteration. For the first iteration, we fetched this, and we are doing all this. Now we have all 4 data ready, and here we are using the insert statement. Insert order info @order info. That's the table we want to return, right? Insert order info, and we specify store name. Here we defined 4 column, right? So we are telling that we are going to fill all 4 column because all data is ready, right? Insert order info of store name, title, quantity, total sold. All these 4 column we specified, and we closed the bracket. Select our local variable name, st name, title, quantity, total sold. So this is select statement will insert a row, or it will give, since it's a select statement comma separated list, it will give a 4 cell value with the value filled based on the local variables. That means here it will be filled with 1L, 2L, 3L, and 4L. Right. So the select will fill all these 4 column, and that we take. So This will map to our quantity, total sold, all those stuff, and this record will get inserted into our in-memory table. All right. From local variable, we are just forming a row of data. We can say this is row 1 on the present iteration. So the cursor in memory will act as a input here, and from this specific row we are forming a mapped row, and that will be part of our order table. Now our order table contains one row, right? Next, if you see, after doing the insert, we are doing the fetch again. Fetch next from sales cursor into store ID, title ID, quantity, like we did previously here. We are filling our V1, V2 and 3L. Right here, fetch next. So once you state fetch next, what happens? Previously the cursor is here, right? Cursor pointer. Now fetch next will move the cursor pointer to the next row, second row. Fetch next from sales cursor into, so now all this value will flow into our local variable. This time the values are taken from the second row. So it goes to V1, this one will goes to V2, and this one will go to our resultant 3L. So the data is available directly in our sales cursor itself, right? So now we fetched the local variable here, store ID, title ID and quantity, and so after this, what happens to, this is the while loop, right? Begin and end. That's the while loop, right? So after fetching, we will go to this begin. We will do the test, and this test will tell fetch status is 0 or not. Since this is the second row, fetch status will be 0. We will come here and we form our second row of data like we did previously, and this will have 1L, 2L, 3L and 4L that will get inserted here into our table. Right. Likewise, we are forming the, or we are filling the return table, and once the cursor is here, we will form the third table, and when you call for fetch next, there is no more row and nothing will get filled here, and when we test here at fetch status, we won't get 0 because fetch is failed. Only there are 3 records on the cursor, so we will come out. So while we are coming out, the data table is ready, in memory table. The statement return will simply return our order info table to the caller with the filled data, right? So this is multi-line table valued function, and this is multi-line table valued function, and this function can also be used with from class as well as in table joins, but it cannot be used in update statement. So multi-line table function via cursor, the same stuff. Since we put a lot of marker in the previous line, this time we are keeping it as a unmarked one. And here, now let us look at 2 stuff here. If you see, the first task here is deciding the function name and parameter, that was done here. After that, we are talking about the return table, right? Then we declared the variable. This is for data retrieval, and it will not participate in this table. So it's simply a variable local to this function to achieve some task, and these are all the local variable which will get mapped to the table column defined here, right? Then our table, if you see, order info table, and order info table, we are doing the insert here. Finally, we are returning it. That means the table cooked will be returned to the caller towards the end. Now let us look at the cursor detail. So if you look at the cursor here, we are declaring the cursor, right? Here we are declaring the cursor, and we talk about the select statement here. So this will give us the in-memory table for record processing. Then we are opening the cursor. Actually, opening the cursor will bring the in-memory data, right? Then we do our fetch next. Fetch next, we are doing it before entering the while loop as well as towards the end of the while loop. So when there is no record, that's also possible, right? When you are opening the cursor for a given condition, or if a given order number there is no record, the very first fetch itself failed and we will not get inside the while loop at all. Alright, so this is fetch next. This fetch next will place the record cursor at the very first record, and when you call fetch next once again, the record pointer will move from this one to here, and it will set fetch status to 0 to denote the success. And when you call once again, it will move to the third one, and the fetch status will be 0. If you call once again, it moves outside the record, and fetch status will not be 0, and we will come out of the loop. Alright, declare cursor, open cursor, fetch next, checking the fetch status. So that's all the stuff with cursor, and all these stuffs are internal business logic to fill the data table. Now let's go to the demo. Here, if you see, we are let's set pubs database. The function name is order info. We already saw that, and this is the parameter we are taking it. Returns table, right? This is the table that is returned by this function, and we are beginning the body of the function. So we defined variables. So this is for data retrieval, because when we query the specific stuff here, let's state that, let's skip this where condition. This is our cursor, right? Let me execute it, and if you see, or we can go to a new query window. The sales table, if you see, it contains store ID, order number, quantity. So that's the data we have on sales, and when order number is given, we will pick information, and this is our cursor data, and we will process the rows one by one. Then based on the processed row, we will insert a new in-memory table, right? So these are all the column of our order info table, and if you see, to insert data into that, we declared some local variables. So to collect data for return table, this is for retrieval itself, or to populate this local variable, we have some supporting variables here. Next, we declared the cursor, and you saw how the cursor will filter the data based on the incoming order ID. It will filter the data. Right. The function will accept the order number, Say for example, if order number is this one, and this is what we get in the cursor. Store ID here it is 7131. To have a meaningful store name, we use the cursor and populate that. This can be achieved easily through join also, but just to explain the concept, here we are using the cursor, and the function, once it is created, it can be used in many places as already told, right? It can be repeatedly used. So we don't need to write the join query again and again whenever we want the required information. That means the information in the sense store name as well as title name, store name, title name, and quantity. So here all are ID, right? And when we are filling, if you see our return table, we specify the store name, we specify the exact title name instead of title ID. We will say total quantity, I mean the quantity for that specific order, and what is the total quantity sold. Total quantity sold in the sense, for example, if PS 777 on this specific order is 25 quantity, but if PS77 is ordered on some other order, we will collect the sum of all the book, and we will form our fourth column here. That's the total sold. On this specific order, the quantity sold is 10, but the total sold so far is 75. So likewise, we are forming the data. All right, this is our cursor. Once we declare the cursor, we open the cursor using the open statement. Right, we declare the cursor, then we are opening it, and we are fetching the cursor data, and we are fetching it into the variables. So all these stuffs are already explained, and then we are forming our while condition. In the while body, so this is the while condition, right? That comes with a begin and end pair. And in the while condition body, if you see, we fill our resulting table, and finally we will return that. Right, this is our table. Now we will execute it. Command completed successfully. That means our multi-line table valued function is ready. And if I refresh it here, so this will accept one parameter, that's nothing but order number. Right, once you provide order number, it will tell what is the store name, what is the title that was sold, and it will tell the quantity. Also, it will tell the total quantity. So that's all here in this video. In the next video, we will make use of our table valued function. Thank you for watching. Bye.